Okay, so we will again call this meeting to order. If you'll all stand, please, we'll have the flag salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first presentation is a recognition of our Chino Armed Forces banner participants. Since 2007, the city of Chino has honored over 330 soldiers through our Armed Forces banner program. These banners hang proudly throughout our community and serve as a reminder of each soldier's service to our country. Tonight, we recognize two local heroes, and we're going to present them with their banners. I'd like to call up Antonio Gomez, please. Antonio. Would you like to have your family join us? Call your family up too. Without their support, our soldiers couldn't serve our country. Antonio grew up in the city of Chino and graduated from Don Lugo High School in 1994. He joined the Army in 1994 and is currently still on active duty. He's achieved the rank of Sergeant Major. He's been stationed at several locations: Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and Fort Carson, Colorado. Antonio has had 8 deployments. He has received numerous medals and awards. He's married, has 3 children. And Antonio, it is with great pleasure that I present you with this certificate of recognition, as well as your banner that flew proudly in our community. I'd like you to please introduce your family and say a few words, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is it on?
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, first of all, thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Thank you. This is my wife, Soledad Gomez, my son, Andrew Gomez, and my daughter, Ariana Gomez. I also have a third son. He is currently in Colorado at the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado. All right. Thank you very much to the city of Chino and everyone here for honoring all service members, retired, off active duty, on active duty, and every branch of service that they serve in. Thank you, Chino.
It's truly our honor to honor people like yourselves that are willing to give of themselves and serve our community. And the sacrifices, I want to thank your wife and your children for allowing your dad and your husband to protect our community. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next I'd like to call up Stephen Rodriguez Jr. and your family, Stephen. They're at home right now. They're at home, okay.
Yeah,
stay home where it's comfortable.
Yeah, they supported me for years.
Stephen was born and raised and still lives in Chino. He graduated from Chino North County School. He joined the U.S. Army in 2008, and he's currently serving in the California Army National Guard. He achieved the rank of Staff Sergeant. Look at him. He even stands like he's still. Relax. It's a habit. He's been stationed at Fort Irwin, California, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and Fort Benning, Georgia. Stephen's deployments include 3 different camps in Kosovo in the Balkans and 2 camps in Kabul, Afghanistan. Jeez. Stephen has received numerous medals, some of which include NATO Medal, Afghanistan Army Service Ribbon, Global War on Terrorism Medal, Kosovo Campaign Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Bronze Star Medal, and the Combat Action Badge. Stephen is married, has 2 children, 14 and 11 years old. Stephen, yes. I can't thank you enough. And your banner that proudly waved over our community. Thank you so much for all of your service, your sacrifices, and thanks to your family for allowing you to be involved in the community.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've been about 10 years. I'm not much of a speaker, but out of all the cities I've been to, Chino is really big on the veterans and military and stuff like that. Like there's some cities that don't even, have a VFW or American Legion. I'm a member of both, so I just recommend that you guys, stop by, Taco Tuesday, or I don't know if we still have bingo or not, but it makes a big difference, though. So that's all I gotta say. Thank you
very much, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. We are blessed to have these gentlemen in our community. Okay, our next presentation is the First Care Provider Program by Chino Valley Independent Fire District. I'd like to call up Chief Kyle Collins, please, Division Chief. Oh, would you like to make the presentation?
Sure. Actually, I just was going to introduce our speaker.
Have them come up.
Yeah, Ryan, would you come forward? Ryan Porsenian's a firefighter paramedic with us. He's been with us for 10 years. You'll notice with Ryan, he's got the gift of gab, and he's a perennial smile. So he's going to try and give a brief synopsis of the First Care Provider. He's a great instructor. If he goes a little long, give him the high sign. He'll be good.
Well, I'm going to take the opportunity to sit in the audience and listen.
All right. I'm just assuming I'm not a technology guy, but technology not my forte. All right, perfect. Good evening, everybody. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be here, and I'm genuinely excited to be able to give you a brief overview of our First Care Provider program. So this particular program was developed by the First Care Provider Foundation, which is a nonprofit, veteran-owned organization. It's comprised of medical professionals, first responders, and military veterans. So this curriculum has been nationally recognized by the Department of Homeland Security's Stop the Bleed campaign, as well as by the Committee for Tactical Emergency Casualty Care, making it one of the few to receive such recognition. But before I dive headfirst into our program, it's important that each and every one of us here tonight recognizes that our country faces a national epidemic. You see, there's something out there that's killing our younger population more than cancer, more than heart disease, more than diabetes, and it's trauma. Trauma is the leading cause of death between ages 1 to 44. One person dies every 3 minutes from trauma in the United States, and statistically speaking, our children are more likely to be killed or injured as a result from school violence or trauma than they are in a school fire. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, each and every day, we're consistently reminded of what's been called our new reality, where active shooter events, terrorist attacks, and intentional mass casualty events are no longer just a problem overseas. They've become a problem domestically, and they've become a problem locally, right here in our own backyard. But I'm going to challenge each and every one of you here tonight to determine for yourself if this really is our new reality or simply history repeating itself over and over and over again. We're staring at an image of the Bath Consolidated Schoolhouse in Bath, Michigan. And all the way back in 1927, this was the site of our nation's worst school massacre to date, where an angry, disgruntled school board member senselessly killed 44 people, including 38 children. Yet I would venture to say that most of us in this audience have probably never heard of the Bath School Massacre. Denial, ladies and gentlemen, the mindset that it can never happen here in our communities, is our number one enemy. City leaders, community members, the time is now that we evaluate our readiness and our resiliency to trauma and acts of violence. Because we've identified something called a public perception gap. There's this notion that our community members have that when they call 911, help is merely seconds away. And although we strive for that on a day-to-day basis, unfortunately, physically and logistically, that's not always the case. In fact, the national average response time for medical emergencies in our country is 8 minutes. Now, I'm proud to stand here and tell you that the Chino Valley Fire District falls well below that national average. We hover somewhere around the 5-minute mark, and we're constantly striving to improve our response times. That only comes from training and through a commitment to providing an excellent service to our community members. But what if I told all of us here tonight that any of us can die from significant blood loss from an arm or leg wound if left untreated in less than 5 minutes? Well, now that response time becomes a lot more significant to all of us. So we have not sat idle as first responders. In fact, we've worked tirelessly to develop and strengthen this trauma chain of survival that you see on the screen through the creation of what we call an interagency response model. That's a collaborative effort between all emergency responders. And over time, we've been able to develop a very efficient and effective response. But we quickly realized that even on our best day, our community members would continue to die from preventable causes of death due to trauma simply because we could not get to them quick enough. So in response to this problem, a joint committee of experts was created, and they were tasked with developing a national framework to develop a policy to enhance survivability from trauma due to active shooter events and intentional mass casualty events. And through a series of publications better known as the Hartford Consensus Documents, they created a framework for us to use. And it included the need for us to integrate community members in our overall response to trauma. They also recommended and suggested that we establish and create bleeding-safe communities throughout our country to enhance our nation's resiliency and readiness to trauma. You see, we no longer look at community members as passive bystanders anymore. We view you as immediate responders, or what's become more nationally known as first care providers. These are empowered community members trained to provide basic life-saving medical interventions to victims of trauma prior to the arrival of first responders. So who are these first care providers? Well, they're each and every one of us in this room, regardless of your occupation, regardless of your gender, regardless of your age, and regardless if you've had any previous training prior to seeing us at our first care provider class. Each and every one of us can and should become first care providers. And that's the vision of our program. It's to inspire, to empower any citizen to become a first care provider to ensure that not another life is lost from preventable causes of death due to trauma. And that's the mission of this program. As first responders, we feel like we can better serve our communities by raising their awareness for our need for them to take action in emergency situations. So I've been flapping my gums for a few minutes, and you guys are probably scratching your heads saying, hey man, what's the goal? What's the overall goal for this? Well, it's very simple, and it's very clear. 0 lives lost from preventable causes of death due to trauma in the Chino Valley. 0, ladies and gentlemen. And we believe that we have a solution and a very pragmatic approach to achieving this goal. But a big portion of it revolves around empowering our community members. And the First Care Provider Program has given us that platform. It's provided us that recognized curriculum to empower our community members. We use the program's RACE method to help our community members develop a framework for their actions during emergency situations. Through the use of familiar themes like run, hide, fight, or see something, say something, we help individuals develop their situational awareness. We teach our community how to effectively use the 911 system in emergency situations and under high stress. And the most important portion of this program revolves around teaching and training our community members to provide life-saving medical interventions to victims of trauma. We do that by using the First Care Provider's care system, where we emphasize the need to control massive bleeding first. We teach them how to manage airway and breathing emergencies, and we teach them how to prevent hypothermia to victims of trauma. To date, I would summarize our efforts as the demand is greater than the supply. We can't keep up with it. To date, we've taught more than 2,500 people in less than a year and a half, and I would say that number is closer to the 3,000 range right now. We've taught a variety of audiences, from community members to first responders to medical professionals to politicians to local businesses. The list goes on and on and on. We've developed bleeding safe booths at some of our local community events where we teach anybody willing to participate in under 5 minutes the First Care Provider bleeding control concepts. And we've recently shifted our efforts to ensuring that all of us in our community have more availability and more access to life-saving public access trauma kits. Here are a few images of some of our efforts over the past year. We're teaching people to be the help until help arrives. We're teaching them that if you're the first ones there, be the ones to provide the first care until first responders can arrive. And I mentioned these public access trauma kits, and it's important that we get the right equipment in all of our hands. We're teaching to build more than a first aid kit. We need to build trauma kits, and we need to include equipment such as tourniquets, pressure dressings, pressure bandages, adhesive chest seals, and hypothermic blankets. And so in an effort to lead by example, the Chino Valley Fire District has created and placed 3 wall-mounted public access trauma kits at 3 of our fire district buildings. Chino Valley Medical Center has recently followed suit and developed their own public access trauma kit in their emergency department. But we need more of these strategically placed at all of our public buildings within our communities. I'm on the home stretch, I promise. I'm passionate about this. And the inspiration comes from why most of us first responders got into this line of work in the first place. And this is why we continue to press in our efforts to make this program widespread throughout the Chino Valley. We got into this line of work to save lives. The mission, vision, value statement of the Chino Valley Fire District revolves around the preservation of life within the Chino Valley while providing an exceptional service. The First Care Provider program is an extension of that mission to preserve life within the Chino Valley Fire District by empowering our community members to take action in emergency situations. Before we conclude, I'm getting the time signal. You may have to tackle me to get me off this stage. I don't want to miss the opportunity to educate this audience because I want to show you a short video on our 5-step tourniquet application process. It may save your life, and it may save someone else's life. It's taught not by me, but by a child, a 6th grader, who felt the need for a school project to teach her students and her teacher the importance of controlling life-threatening bleeding from an arm or leg wound by applying a tourniquet. If there's no volume, I'll...
As tight as you can. Forward, twist the rod until the bleeding stops. 5, lock the rod in place. Tell the person that it will hurt, but it will save their life.
And she's absolutely right. So in closing, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your continual support. I urge and plead with all of you to partner with us in our efforts. Remember the goal: 0 lives lost from preventable causes of death from trauma in the Chino Valley. Remember the solution, the pragmatic approach to achieving that goal. 1, keep us accountable. First responders will continue to develop and strengthen our integrated response model to trauma. Number 2, help us make sure that this curriculum is taught widespread throughout the Chino Valley to empower our community members. And 3, help us ensure that we have access and availability to public access trauma kits. Doing these 3 things, ladies and gentlemen, will increase survivability, it will increase readiness and resiliency, and it will ensure that the Chino Valley is truly bleeding safe communities. Thank you for your time.
That was an excellent presentation. I have about 1 million questions, but maybe we can have some information on our website that'll make it possible for citizens to connect with the fire department about this program. Okay, and I did not give him a minute signal. He fibbed. I know it was part of the speech. Okay, our next presentation is recognition of Jessica Guillen for placing second at the Major League Baseball Pitch, Hit, and Run Team Championship. Jessica? I'd also like to call up Gus Hernandez from our Community Services Department. He's the supervisor. Gus? I'd like to ask Jessica's family to join her. Okay, can somebody hold the camera for that lady that's filming? I think she's part of the family. Are you part of the family? Want to come up? No? She's grandma. That's part of the family. That's an important part of the family. Jessica, I would like to present you with this certificate of congratulations in recognition of your achievement in placing second at the Major League Baseball Pitch, Hit, and Run Team Championship. Would you like to speak about the program, and then we'll have her introduce her family.
Yeah, hello. My name is Gus Hernandez. I'm with the Community Services Department. We were proud enough to host our second local competition back in March, and we're very proud to have Jessica reach all the way to the team championships that were held at Dodger Stadium. So thank you for participating. I'm sure it was a thrill for her and her family, and we can't wait to have her again next year.
Jessica doesn't want to introduce her family. Mom and Dad, would you like to introduce your family?
This is Joe Guillen, her dad. This is Jake Guillen, her brother. This is Grandma Angie, and I'm the mom, Stacy Guillen. And it was initially started to be just this fun, unexpected, go for it at Diala Park, and it ended up being such a great accomplishment, and just proud of everything she's done to get there. So she's excited to do it again next year and get first place next year.
Good.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oops. Microphone. Okay, thank you again for being here this evening. Okay, and our last I haven't seen Angie in 100 years. I didn't even recognize her. Our next presentation is for the Mayor's Home Beautification Award. I'd like to call up Monica and Martin Gonzalez of 3634 Alicia Way. Are they here? Are they present this evening? Nope, they skipped out. They're at home. Well, you saw the beautiful picture on the screen of their home. So we'll get the certificate of recognition to them. There's also a certificate from Supervisor Hagman. We have a couple of our city pins for them, as well as pens. And of course, the sign that everybody wants for their yard, the prized Home Beautification Award. We will get all of this to them. Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public communication. This is the time and the place for the general public to address the council on items that are not on our agenda. Our first request to speak this evening is Michael Tafoya of Living Word Assembly Church. He has come this evening to lead us in prayer. I'd like to invite all those who would like to participate to please stand.
Let's pray. Father, we want to thank you tonight for your presence here. And I just pray that you guide, that you direct, that you bestow your wisdom on the mayor and the council, that as they face the various issues regarding the city of Chino and its constituents, Lord, that you guide them into the right decisions. We want to thank you for your help. It's in Jesus' name we pray, and everybody said, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Michael. Okay, we have several written requests to speak. I think they're all, well, I'll just start going through. I think they're all on the same item. The first one is Katie Halloran.
Mayor Ulloa, council members, and guests. My name is Katie Halloran. I live at 5556 Locust Street, Chino, California. I am here today to thank the mayor for taking the time and care to talk to the little people of Chino, and especially for listening. I feel that she is a strong, understanding woman who has put up with a lot and is not afraid or intimidated to stand up for real Chino. To our council, I want to know, do you know that behind your back, people call you the good old boys? I am asking that you quit making backroom deals and start talking to people who live in Chino. You don't need to make a profit to talk to the city council. Go to the movies at City Hall. Go to a softball game. Go to our beautiful museum and talk to the real people that live in Chino. Walk your neighborhood like I did. Talk to ordinary people. It's very important. Then you can honestly understand where Chino is moving. People are concerned about traffic, schools, space, and lot size, and especially parking. Mr. George, you don't live in my district, but you represent me. You came to my house and spoke to 30 of my neighbors.
So I did speak to you and listened.
You're not worried, but you should be. We understand that when it came time to vote, you were not strong enough. You could not stand up against opposition. And that's unfortunate. All I would like to say is remember, we are not going away. Our motto is to protect Chino. Even if you won't. We care about our city and how it moves forward. I'm hoping you will remember how that feels. Thank you.
Next written request to speak is Ed Lai.
Good evening, Mayor Ulloa, council members. My name is Ed Lai. I live at 5531 Adams Street here in Chino. Thank goodness the election is over. I think we sent a message, a resounding no. Some of our campaign committee are here, and they are the ones that made it a success. A diverse and enthusiastic group that had many ideas, and we tried to implement them all. We wore our yellow t-shirts proudly, walking precincts, went to the concerts in the park, Chino Summer Nights. We did rallies, weenie roasts, and we tried to be at every community event to get our message out to the citizens of Chino. Some even saw the message in the sky. I think we did a pretty good job. The results were better than we hoped for, 84% no. I thank the voters for becoming knowledgeable on Measure H and not being misled by the many deceptive and misleading advertisements. They enthusiastically supported no, rejecting the subterfuge. I think the campaign brought the community closer together. We are tired of the congestion and the traffic and the higher density developments. Thank you to the voters of Chino. Also, the Planning Commission understood by rejecting the development unanimously 6-0, based on the EIR, General Plan Amendment, and zone change. They got it. Thank you, Planning Commission. We would also like to thank the concerned citizens of Ontario and their city who had a resolution in opposition to H. Those residents were among our strongest supporters, and they may have been the ones most impacted by this measure. Finally, the one voice on the council that listened to our concerns and was in touch with the pulse of the city was Mayor Ulloa. Thank you so much for your consideration. When we couldn't get clarification regarding claims in the advertisements of the developer, you requested staff to answer our questions. Without clarification, we would have been left in the dark, and the voters deserve to know what they're voting for. In gratitude, I'd like to present you, Mayor Ulloa, with a sign, No on H, that's signed by all our committee members. Thank you for standing by us.
Okay, our next written request to speak is Jolynn Flores.
Good evening, Mayor Ulloa, council members. I'm Jolynn Flores, a Chino resident. I went to Don Lugo many years ago and have been back these last 2 years. But my mother has been here for 41 years, so I've been living or visiting Chino for over 40 years. And I recently joined up to volunteer for Protect Chino, that is the No on H group, for the past month. I believe in being part of my community. First, I want to thank my fellow citizens that are behind me and behind Protect Chino. These are the people who love this town and committed so much time, energy, and resources to protect Chino. We're lucky to have them. I'm here because this whole issue has been frustrating. Though I too had a big sigh of relief with the vote. It's frustrating that this vote had to happen at all. It's frustrating because I sense a lack of leadership from city council members. Oh, that's not you, Mayor Ulloa. Council members ignored the recommendations of our planning commission, who had unanimously rejected the proposed development in Measure H. Council members voted to allow the measure to go before voters without requiring the developer to do the legwork required to petition the citizenry first. Council members, you made it so easy for them. I read quotes from council members in our local papers that at best sounded glum. Why not allow another high-density development? Most of you wouldn't live here anyway without these high-density developments. Chino proudly touts a character of being voted family-friendly with the banners here at City Hall and the marquee over at Ayala Park. What some entity voted us versus your city council actions is a dichotomy. High-density developments on tiny lots with tiny yards are not family-friendly. We voters know what we want for Chino. 84% of us took the time in the middle of summer to vote down Measure H. I hope council understands now. We want what is left for Chino to be Chino. Semi-rural, ranch-style, spacious homes, family-friendly, fertile land, farm animals, Chino. Aside from what's already in your general plan, we do not want any more high-density developments. No more big homes on tiny lots with itty-bitty yards. We do not want to be another bland, characterless suburban town. Please support your general plan. Norco proudly conveys and retains its horsetown character. Everything feels horsetown when you visit Norco. Norco has character. San Dimas is Western. You go there and you feel like you're back in time. San Dimas has character. Claremont is trees and PhDs. Claremont has character. And Chino? Chino takes baby steps to convey a character of being semi-rural and spacious and agricultural and family-friendly with our city logo. Our logo. I want it to be in your mind, the hills and the fertile land of our logo. We know most of the dairy cows are gone, yet we have that Derriere Run. MK Smith has the banner at Central and Riverside, the cows.
Jillian, you are getting close to 5 minutes.
Don Lugo, Chino High Milk Cow Bowl. But that's it. Where's our character? We need your leadership. The Historical Society, businesses, and we voters can only do so much. So please lead us. Take intentional steps with every facet of your work to stamp our city with the character we voters yearn for. We voters did our part. Protect Chino.
Next speaker, Larry Dauma.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kind of new at this. My name's Larry Dauma. I live on Lacassie Court, Northwest Chino. My main thing is, after this vote, it's become very apparent that the city doesn't like high density. Let's get the planning departments to stick to their guns, make them have the builders develop the property that will fit the general plan. Not something that you can't walk on, walk through. They have no sidewalks. Make the streets wide enough that they have, and put sidewalks on both sides of the street. We just heard the fire department talk about they want to be within 5 minutes. If they go to that new development on Central and Francis Horton, they'd have to park on Central and walk in. They don't have room to drive on the streets. And somebody's letting them build them that way. We need to have the city planning department take the city back over and not let the developers be the ones dictating how the city's built.
Next up, Bob Nigg.
Hi, my name's Bob Nigg. I've been a resident of Chino for 17 years, and my topic is fireworks. But first, I would like to say how much I appreciate the no vote. I've been against high-density development for numerous years, and hopefully the tide has turned, and we won't get that in the future. The reason I'm here is fireworks is getting worse year after year after year. It's a war zone out there. And I think the city council needs to take a much more proactive approach to see what can we do as a community to reduce this problem. And if you don't think it's a problem, I don't know where you are in the week of the 4th of July. I would like to appreciate Chief Comstock and Director Burns for giving me some information. This past 4th, 64 tickets were written. 24 of them were from outside the city, citizens, not Chino's residents. We need to ask ourselves, why are people coming to our community to light off illegal fireworks? I read in the newspaper there were 7 fire responses here in Chino, 1 in Chino Hills. We need to ask ourselves, why is there a 700% difference between communities that are right next to each other? We need to ask ourselves, and this is, I know how difficult it is for the police department to police something when there's hundreds of legal fireworks going off and identified, but we need to ask ourselves, why are only 64 tickets written this year and an average of 75 over the last several years? Now, I have some suggestions, but I'm going to attend a community service meeting next week and go from there. But my intent to coming here tonight was just to explain to the council, and hopefully you'll start listening, that I don't think we need to put health and safety first in our community, and I don't think that's happening now. Thank you.
Mr. Nick did mention there is a Community Services Commission meeting on Monday, July 24th at 7 o'clock, and they will be discussing fireworks. Next written request to speak, Sandra Rose.
There's a lot of passionate people here tonight, and I hope my passion doesn't get lost in the shuffle. My name is Sandra Rose, and tonight I'm representing a small group in Chino called ACLU for People Power. We're looking at the big picture, and we believe in the protection of every person's civil liberties. We believe that the protection of these civil liberties is what has made this country great. We believe our police department is exemplary in its protection of our freedoms and the protection of all our community members. We have nothing but respect for every member of the Chino Police Department. What we would like is the public to know that our Chino Police Department works to protect all our community members without regard to their immigration status. So I have a very simple, easy request. In order to further the knowledge of the general public, we would like to ask that the City of Chino posts the Chino Police Department's policy number 427 on its website for easier access by the public. And I know this has to be agendized for a future meeting for discussion and action, but I hope you will consider it. Thank you.
Next is Gail Timmons.
Mayor Ulloa, council members, I'm Gail Timmons. I live at 13184 Norton Avenue in Chino. And first off, I want to thank all the people that are Protect Chino that are here. And I want to thank all the supportive voters that have voted overwhelmingly to support the master plan. I'm here to talk about a specific thing for myself. I have a specific question, and I'm going to read it because I'm just not good at this. And a related request concerning the Chino pipeline annexation and my 4.5 acres on Norton. During the public hearing on April 18th, about 45 minutes into your council video, Councilman Howie asked staff exactly how many lots could be developed on our property. I assume this question was asked because I had said the proposed tentative master plan, or tentative master map, would limit the development of my property. Through the discussion with staff, staff answered my property would be dividable into 10 lots that would be 4.5 units per acre, and it would include a cul-de-sac street on my property. For clarification, I would ask the council to have staff review that answer, provide us with a concept drawing of how that would be accomplished once the annexation takes place. And for future reference, I would ask that I be given a written copy of that answer and a copy of the concept plan. Thank you very much.
Next written request is Larry Walker, and that is the final written request we have.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I am here tonight to talk to you about Measure H, but really to talk to you about the title of my presentation is Measure H is Defeated. What's next? I was here and Mayor Ulloa was here on September 8th of 1986 when the concept of Measure M was born. It was a workshop. The city has no record of that workshop other than the 3 pages of minutes that were taken at the workshop. Only 3 staff people were there. But that's the night that Mayor Pro Tem McGuire brought in a list about a page long of density reductions. 4.5 units per acre down to 2 units per acre, 14 units per acre down to 4.5 units per acre, and the list went on. And that was part of what the council was doing at the time, looking at the entire city, analyzing where we were in terms of what our community would look at like at build-out, and adjusting it downwards to reflect what the people's concerns were at that time. Measure M came out of that, and Measure M was supposed to say that any changes in the Chino general plan that would increase residential density would be required to be voted on by the people of Chino. As you know, that's not the position of the city of Chino today, so let me get into my talk. Measure H is defeated. What next? The cost of good land use planning, like the price of liberty, is eternal vigilance. That's why we're here tonight. With that principle in mind, it's appropriate to ask, after Measure H, what's next? The epic historical defeat of Measure H is a major crossroads for the Chino community. Every citizen who values our community must question whether the obvious discontent of our citizens on this issue, as expressed in the recent vote, is now resolved, or whether more needs to be done. I'm here to tell you that Measure H is just a tip of the iceberg. Those who would wish away the Measure H message do so at great risk to themselves and to the community. In fact, the most significant problem we have realized through Measure H is the measure that was not on the ballot last Tuesday. In April, 2 developers got this city council to override its planning commission and approve a development with residential density far in excess of the 1988 general plan. Why only 1 election? The city of Chino will tell you that the Norton Pipeline project is not subject to a vote of Chino residents because it's not in the city. But I'm here to say it should have had an election. Part of that project approval was to initiate annexation of the project. So it will be in the city by the time the first purchaser in that tract moves in. Many more such developments wait in the wings, all of which the city's position is today will not be entitled to a Measure H type of election. That's simply wrong. Do you, council members, believe that the voters who entrusted your positions to you think there is a meaningful difference between a residential density increase on Benson Avenue and one on Pipeline Avenue? I doubt it. So the next thing you need to do is place a new Measure M. I don't know what the letter will be, but ironically, the night, just a few months after that September workshop, the city council elected 4 new people, or elected a mayor and 3 new council members, and there was a Measure M on the ballot that night as well. I have no idea what it's about, but just thought I'd throw that in. The next thing you need to do is place a new Measure M on the ballot this November, which would give the people of Chino what many thought they already had, the right to veto increases in residential density in the general plan wherever in the general plan area of the city of Chino those increases are proposed. The impacts of increased residential density are not less because a development starts out in the unincorporated area. the city's responsibility to the new area and to the rest of the city for the impact of the new area on the present city residents is no less as well. You might say, but we have no jurisdiction over an unincorporated area. That raises an interesting question. You refuse sewer connections outside the city limits. You argue that you cannot give your residents the right to vote on city projects that start outside the city limits but will become part of the city.
There, you're getting close to 5
I'm
minutes.
getting close to the end, too.
Okay.
But you dedicate thousands of dollars worth of staff time to negotiate, plan, process, hold hearings, and ignore the Planning Commission to provide service to developers whose interests are by definition outside your city limits. It's a paradox without justification. The solution is simple. Place a new measure on the ballot. Your constituents will thank you. They will also more likely believe your assurances that you heard their overwhelming voices on July 11th and that you do want Measure M to work. Thank you.
Okay, those are all the written requests to speak. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on any item that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. And let's see, we would like to pull item number 17 and refer it back to staff. Are there any other items that council members wish to have pulled or the audience like to have pulled? Okay, seeing none, a motion would be appropriate. Okay, there's a motion from Councilman Elrod, a second from Mayor Pro Tem Howie, and the consent calendar passes unanimously.
17 you want to pull?
Well, that's what the staff report says, 17. Was 17 the one?
Yes, correct.
Yes, 17. Oops, sorry. Okay, next section is public hearings. Prior to the vote of the city council, any member of the audience will have the opportunity to address the council on any items listed under public hearings, which there's one. Council request, but it's not required that you state your name and address prior to making any remarks. Item number 18, landscape and street light maintenance district assessment for fiscal year 17-18. Our staff report this evening will be provided by Mr. Jose O'Leary, our Assistant City Manager, Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The city has formed 6 lighting and landscape districts under the 1972 Act of the California Streets and Highway Code. Each year, the City Council reviews the districts and holds a public hearing to set the assessment rates. District 2002-1 has a CPI escalator that allows the city to adjust their rates. This year, the CPI is 2.11%, which results in a slight increase for that district. Now, at the last June 6th council meeting, the City Council adopted 3 resolutions. One filed the annual report with the city clerk. The other was approve the engineer's report. The third was to declare the city's intention to order improvements and set the public hearing. Now, as part of this process, the public hearing is required in order to levy the annual assessments and provide the opportunity for all interested persons to comment on this matter. Also, I just want to remind the council that included in this fiscal year's budget is funding to move forward with a Proposition 218 for property owners in these districts to vote on a rate increase to cover costs for services rendered. So with that, its staff recommends to conduct the public hearing tonight, adopt Resolution 2017-039 confirming the assessments, and direct the city clerk to file a certified copy of the diagram and the assessments with the county auditor and controller. That concludes my report on this item.
Okay, thank you, Jose. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the council on item number 18? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council comments, questions of staff? None? Okay, then a motion would be appropriate. Here's a motion by Councilman George, second by Councilman Elrod, and the item passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is under new business, professional services agreement, David Church and Associates, award professional services agreement to David Church and Associates in Washington, D.C. in the amount of $60,000 to provide federal advocacy services. Our staff report this evening will be provided by our city manager, Matt Ballantyne.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. On February 21st of 2017, the city entered into an agreement with David Church and Associates in the amount of $15,000 to provide federal advocacy services through the end of fiscal year 16-17. During this interim period, the council directed staff to release a request for proposals for these same services. On May 22nd, 2017, the city received 4 proposals. Upon reviewing those proposals, staff identified that the costs submitted by each firm were nearly identical, roughly $5,000 per month. David Church and Associates' experience with Chino and their familiarity with various projects in the city provides this firm with a competitive advantage. Recognizing the need for infrastructure improvements surrounding the areas like Pine Avenue, the services of this firm are necessary for the city's ability to retain essential funding and approvals from such agencies like the Army Corps of Engineers. As such, staff recommends the City Council enter into a 1-year professional service agreement with David Church and Associates in the amount of $60,000 for federal advocacy services. This concludes my report, and staff is available to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, this is not a public hearing, but I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item. Okay, seeing none, council discussion. Mr. George?
Regarding David Church, I was back in Washington, D.C. About a week and a half ago, and one of the days that I was back there, I had called David Church and Associates to set up meetings for me with Congresswoman Norma Torres and Congresswoman Grace Napolitano, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. It just happened that the only day I had, that the person we needed from the Army Corps wasn't there. But they went, as far as I'm concerned, they went above and beyond to set up those meetings. They were very successful. In fact, Congresswoman Torres' suggestion was to set up a summit. She did not like the idea that the Army Corps has been not very responsive to us. And so she wants to set up a summit with David Church's group, as well as the staff from Napolitano's, her staff, and Ed Royce's staff, and the Army Corps of Engineers, and have a summit either back there or here in the near future. And they are, as far as I know, they are working on that right now. So they did a fantastic job while I was there, and opened doors for me that that I may not have been able to open myself. So I think they're doing a great job.
Mr. Elrod?
Yeah, I haven't been a real fan of Church over the years. I did have a meeting with him last week, and I was quite blunt, and I said I'll go a year, but I want every 2 months to have an update on what we're doing and get some results. So I'll give him a second chance. That's my feeling on it. I mean, Gary and Tom are the ones that are probably going to D.C. So if they feel comfortable with them, then that's fine with me.
Well, I would say we've had council members go back to Washington, D.C. every year for many, many years, and haven't really been that successful because of the doors that are they're shut, but we have incurred those expenses. We had secured the services of Mr. Church before, and I was not happy with it, with the results of the lobbying. I'm always highly suspect if the fee is the same for everybody. We have certain circumstances where they're not supposed to be a monopoly businesses, but it seems like the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. all agree that they're going to charge $5,000 regardless of whether they're effective or not. So I've not been a fan of hiring a lobbyist. I voted against this before in the past. I think it's pretty ludicrous to spend this kind of money and also have council members go back. It hasn't paid off in the past, but I'll give it one more chance for 1 year. I too want to see if this does us any good. It may open doors, but if it doesn't result in anything, then we're wasting $60,000 because our council members have gone back every year and lobbied. Right. Whether it's always the same 2 council members or not, I think it should be up to the council to decide. Sure. we should have a variety of people that are able to go back if they choose to go back. So I think, I'm going to be watching this very closely. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's phenomenally successful and can get us some money to help with our serious transportation or challenges, especially when it comes to Pine Avenue. But I have to say I'm very skeptical, and I too, I'm glad you suggested a report every 2 months because I think there needs to be accountability. Yes.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, one item I'd like to point out to the council is if these periodic reports do not prove satisfactory to the council, there is a provision in the contract that's before you that authorizes you to terminate the contract with 15 days notice, with or without cause. So you do have some flexibility here.
Thank you for bringing that up, Fred. The other thing I briefly wanted to bring up was it's interesting that the 4-month contract, tentative or temporary contract that we had in place was actually $3,750 a month, but yet going to a long-term contract, it's $5,000 a month. So we paid $15,000 and so far got some doors open, but no real results. Now it's $5,000
Actually,
a
it
month.
was for 3 months. That's how, so it was $5,000 for 3 months.
Well, it was for March, April, May, and June.
Yeah, it was only for 3 months of service.
So it started April, May, and June? Oh, okay. Wrong about that. I apologize.
And let me just comment that in many of those years, he was not our lobbyist, and we still went back there trying in difficult times when the economy went down and there were no transportation dollars coming out. But it's important to make contacts back there. You may not always get, and a lot of cities didn't get a lot of money also. But I think right now, our situation with Army Corps, the possibility of losing our money that we have, it's very imperative that we get some meetings going, and we can use the help right now.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I know when Dennis and I went back with Jimmy and Gary Miller was a congressman, and we did bring back $9 million. So there is a way to do it. I think it's important for our people to be there too, because all they see up in Washington is lobbyists.
Right.
Very rarely do they get to see who is hiring them. So hopefully we can get some money out of this deal with the infrastructures and stuff that are working. But I'm willing to go another year and see what happens.
Okay.
And if you want to go, Madam Mayor, I think it'd be great.
I don't really have any.
You have time now.
Well, I'm going to have time.
Right.
I'm
See, that
retired.
next month you're done.
Wait, yeah, I know, but
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need people to go back to Washington, D.C. who have a passion for that and knowledge. And so, but I do think that it needs to be available to all council members, different ones.
You can talk to the agricultural department too.
Oh, I know. Maybe we can bring back farms, huh?
Horses.
Hey,
Maybe get some horse.
There used to be a saying, a chicken in every pot.
Right.
Horse in every pot.
yard.
Can you imagine in the new development? Good Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to have a green lawn, that's for sure.
Just kidding. Anyway, okay, so there's been council discussion. A motion would be appropriate. And there is a motion from Councilman Elrod, second from Councilman George. And the item passes unanimously. Okay, item number 20, authorized purchase order increase for Devaney, Pate Morris, and Cameron LLP. This is to authorize an increase in the amount of $250,000 to purchase orders with the firm for legal services. Our staff report this evening will be provided by Anthony Arroyo, our Director of Human Resources Risk Management.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This report presented to you this evening is seeking your approval to increase the purchase order for another $250,000 with Devaney, Pate, Morris, and Cameron for a revised total not to exceed $500,000 for the current fiscal year. You may recall Devaney, Pate, Morris, and Cameron represented the city in a case involving a multi-fatality crash that occurred on October 13th, 2014. Earlier this year, an increase of $150,000 was requested and approved to pay the mounting defense that Devaney, Pate et al. Was putting together. At that time, staff was aware experts would be used to conduct various tests. However, the cost of these tests was unknown. As such, the council's approval is needed this evening to pay for the use of these experts and the final invoices we have received. It is anticipated this will be the last request for additional funds as the case settled in June of 2017. The city did not provide any financial amount to the settlement.
The settlement was provided by the insurance companies of some of the other parties named in the lawsuit. This concludes my presentation, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Anthony, I think for the public's benefit, just giving a date on when an event occurred does not tell them what it was about. Fred, is it okay if he briefly describes what this particular case was about?
Yes, Madam Mayor, the complaint is a public record, so to the extent that the allegations are summarized, that is fine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and keep in mind, I wasn't employed with the city at the time, so if I miss anything, I apologize in advance. But on the evening of October 3rd, 2014, 4 college-age kids were driving on Pine Avenue at rates not posted on the speed limit, excessive speeds, and they lost control of the vehicle, crashed into a vehicle that was going in the opposite direction, and the deaths of 5 people resulted because of that accident. As a result, the families of the deceased filed a lawsuit, within the year of that accident, and the city has been in defense mode since October 2015. Other parties of the lawsuit were Lewis Operating Company, CMPH, the city, and as a result of the litigation and the mounting defense that our attorneys put together, very good defense because of these experts that were retained, the case was settled with the federal, as a result of a federal mediation, and last I heard, they're just waiting for the contracts to be signed.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think the public would appreciate, a little bit more detail so they know what it's about. Okay, again, this is not a public hearing, but I would ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to comment on this item. Okay, seeing none. Council discussion? No comments. Then, yeah, I'm glad it's over too. Motion would be appropriate. There's a motion from Councilman George, second by Mayor Pro Tem Howie, and the item passes 4 yes. Okay, next item is item number 21. Approval of bond documents for special tax bonds for Community Facilities District number 2016-2. Long explanation. I'll let our Director of Finance, Rob Burns, go through the details.
All right, thanks, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. The City of Chino formed Community Facilities District 2016-2 last year. The CFD is located north of Eucalyptus Avenue between San Antonio and Euclid Avenue. The CFD provides funding for infrastructure as well as a city services tax. The development is sufficiently complete to allow for the issuance of the bonds at this time. Staff and our team of consultants have prepared the bond documents that are necessary for the bond issuance process. Therefore, we're seeking approval tonight of Resolution 2017-038, authorizing the issuance of the special tax bonds of the district and approving the substantially final forms of the preliminary official statement, the fiscal agent agreement, the bond purchase agreement, the continuing disclosure agreement, the market absorption study, and the property appraisal report. So approval of these bond documents will allow the financing to move forward, and we expect to sell these bonds at the end of this month. That concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Mr. Burns, again, for the public benefit, can you briefly describe the area that the CFD covers?
Sure. Again, it's north of Eucalyptus Avenue between Fern and Euclid. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it used to be on the, part of the project is on the dairy that was there years ago. And then the other portion is along Euclid and between Fern and Euclid.
No.
So it's basically divided into 2 separate projects. One is a single-family home development, which is now complete. There are 53 homes. On the other side of Fern, they're going to build, I think it's approximately 147 homes, which are multifamily homes.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, this is not a public hearing, but are there any members of the public that would like to make any comments? Okay, seeing none, council discussion? None, then a motion would be appropriate. There's a motion from Councilman Elrod, second from Councilman Howie. And the item passes unanimously. Okay. Okay. Next on the agenda is mayor and council reports. This is the time and the place for all of us to report on pre-scheduled meetings and other items that we wish to bring to the council or public awareness. Item number 22 is the swearing-in ceremony. There's already been a motion and a second on appointing Mr. Rodriguez to that seat. So, Paul, would you like to come up, please? And our city clerk will swear you in.
Paul Rodriguez. I solemnly swear I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you.
Paul, if you would like to take your seat, and then, yes, come up this way, and then Earl, if you can tell him.
What?
No, oh, I guess he can't use that microphone. Can you turn it on? Okay. Earl will show you how to turn on your microphone if you'd like to make any comments.
I'd like to thank
Pull it toward you.
all the residents.
Pull the microphone toward you. Yeah.
I can't use my principal voice. No, I want to thank all the residents of Chino and District 1. I look forward to really working with my council members and the entire city, all the residents, to continue to focus on our mission, vision, and values of the district. And that includes our financial obligations that we have done a very, very good job. And once again, thank you all for this privilege. I'm very honored and humbled.
Well, welcome aboard. I think you'll find it a lot more work than what you anticipate.
Yes.
Okay, let's see, last month, I failed to mention it publicly, so I'll do it now. Bob and I celebrated our 42nd wedding anniversary. The poor man deserves a trophy and maybe a ribbon, something to pin on his chest. Yes, he's a survivor.
Purple Heart.
Purple Heart, yeah, well, maybe. On the 22nd of June, I attended Celeste Cantu's retirement from the Santa Ana Watershed Protection Agency and presented her with a certificate on behalf of the council. She's going to be sorely missed. She's truly an expert in the area of water. She's going to work as the CEO of an organization I think is called WELL. It's the Water Education for Latino Leaders. So hopefully she'll stay involved in the area because she is truly a gem. On the 30th, I attended the opening ceremonies of the girls' fast pitch tournament, which was, of course, the same weekend as our fireworks celebration. Then on the 1st, we had our fireworks spectacular, which turned out very, very well. Of course, it's obviously very well attended. I'm so proud of our community because you get thousands of people together who actually get along, have a good time. Kids are having fun riding their bikes. People are barbecuing, picnicking, and it was a really nice event. The weather was perfect. It had cooled off enough. So it was spectacular. Fireworks spectacular were spectacular. On the 6th of July, I attended Brandon Mena's funeral, which was a true tragedy. The turnout was phenomenal. I can't say enough about the police department's support of his dad. Truly, truly a tragedy. And hopefully his family is graced with peace and healing. On the 11th of July, of course, was the special election, Measure H, which was overwhelmingly defeated by 84%. And I think it did send a very clear message to our community, and it's something that we as a council need to work on. We need to work on our general plan and our sphere of influence, and I had a very long conversation with our city manager today about that process. So I will be speaking to council members and getting together and figuring out how we do address the issues that are in our community right now and moving forward. And then on the 12th, I attended the Omnitrans and San Bernardino County Transportation Authority Board of Directors. There was an issue on their agenda that deals with toll lanes on the 10 freeway. I and one other member voted against that. If it had been privately funded, like the 241, I would have not had any objection, but I think, you know, our taxpayers have paid dearly over the years, and we did vote in Measure I, that was the half-cent sales tax. We do have terrible transportation problems. I don't think it's fair to continue or to penalize our taxpayers and make them pay to try to get better transportation when they've already been paying for years and years. So nothing new. I was one of the short end of the stick voters. And then that evening also, we conducted the interviews for Councilman Duncan's seat. I want to congratulate Mr. Rodriguez for being appointed. We had some excellent candidates, and we do have some very important issues that are going to be coming forward to us in the near future. Okay, now my official reading position, or commentary. First, with Chino's rich history, I want everyone to be aware of tomorrow's fundraiser being conducted by the Chino Valley Historical Society at 5:30 in the afternoon in the Old Schoolhouse Museum, which is located at 5493 B Street. Appropriately called barn raising, this event will help build a barn to house historic farming equipment that symbolizes our outstanding agricultural history. At $45 a ticket, not only will you contribute to preserving a piece of our community's history, but you will also get a chance to paint and enjoy great wine and appetizers as well. For more information, please call 909-334-3278 tomorrow morning to check for availability and reserve your seat. Then lastly, make sure you come out on Saturday, July 22nd from 11 to 1 to Assemblyman Freddie Rodriguez's summer open house, occurring at his district office just down the street at 13160 7th Street. This free event will allow those in attendance to personally meet our Assemblyman and discuss important issues, all while enjoying great food, refreshments, and company. For more information, please call 909-902-9606. Okay, Councilman, or Mayor Pro Tem Howie, sorry.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it's been a long time since we had some council comments. I did attend the Rancho del Chino Rotary installation last month, also the Seroptimus installation, two of those. With that, along with the two CDA, the Chino DeSalter Authority, the finance meeting and the regular meeting. Got to go to the WFA TAC meeting. That was pretty exciting for Water Facilities Authority. And of course, the chamber dinner on the 13th. I've also been able to attend a number of the concerts on the lawn. And those are, I think this week is the last concert on the lawn on this Thursday night, so come on out. So I just wanted to make a couple of comments about this evening. I just want to say congratulations to the Measure H people. They did the democratic process. They got together. They were able to get not only that particular neighborhood where and not only the city next door, but it seemed like they were able to contact all their friends throughout the city. And in a small election like this, you really have an advantage if you can get a number of people, because obviously only 20% of the people vote, and it shows that a Measure MH can lose. And congratulations to them, because if you remember at the meeting when we put it on the ballot to allow the voters to vote on it, I said that I thought they had an excellent chance, seeing how the last couple of elections had barely passed without any organized opposition. So you can see what organized opposition can do in that situation. So congratulations to that. The city council has, for years, including the mayor, has put every Measure M on the ballot. And finally, one of them, people got together and said no. And that's what it's all about. This is what voting should be, and the people are deciding, not the city council. We did not decide on that project. We allowed the voters to get us to do that. Now, you could say, okay, maybe we shouldn't have done it. Maybe we should have let them go get signatures. And that, I can understand that, but I think if a developer is willing to pay $150,000 or $200,000 for an election, they could hire a professional company to come in and get signatures. And then, had that happened, the city taxpayers would have had to spend $150,000 or $200,000 of taxpayer money for that election. And I know the mayor disagrees with me, but hey, we each have our own opinion on that situation. So I think the sphere of influence is very important. I think it's going to take time to go through the sphere of influence. It's not going to get done in 2 months, 3 months. We have 1,500 acres, 3,000 lots are there in the sphere. Many of them are large lots, and it's going to take some good planning, good financial planning, because as you know, there's going to be a lot of infrastructure, streets, sewers, all the different things that goes along with that. That's going to be a long process. And maybe, I agree. I think we should plan smartly, but also maybe future generations are going to be planning this too. We'll have to see how all that goes. So again, congratulations. Measure M can be defeated if people get together, and if they don't want it in their neighborhood, fine. Okay. And I think that's all I got.
Okay. Councilman Elrod?
After all that.
I'm sorry.
On June 28th, I had a meeting with an industrial builder in town about his project, and it looks very, very good for him. Then after that, I met with Paul Rodriguez, and he had a lot of questions to ask about the city and things of that sort, so we went through that. Then I attended the swearing in of our police officers that day. Then I went to the Brandon Mina reception, and that was the chief. I want to congratulate you that you did a very nice job in there. So, and then on the 12th, I had that meeting with church, and then we had the special council meeting that evening. And that concludes my report.
Okay, Councilman George?
Thank you, Eunice. Okay, on June the 29th, I mentioned this earlier, but I'll just kind of highlight a little bit of it. I was on vacation with the family. We took our 6th grade granddaughter. When they promote from 6th grade, they get a special trip, and she picked Washington, D.C. And so that was why I was there. Unofficially. Officially, I was there. I had let David Church know that I was going to be there, and they set up the meetings. And I think I did forget to say that it was in regards to Pine Avenue and 71 and the Army Corps. And again, a very successful meeting back in Washington D.C. And our 6th grader Brittany, I think, had a great time, because we also got to go with a special tour through the Capitol and a special tour through the White House West Wing. So, cool. No, he wasn't there. On my return so that's why I missed the fireworks show. I hated to miss that, but that's family first. On the 5th, also met with Paul Rodriguez, and a very educational meeting. Thank you, Paul. And congratulations and welcome. And then on the 6th, I met with Tom Howie and Matt and Jose to debrief them on what happened at the DC meeting and about the summit that's upcoming. That'll be a good telling thing if that summit
Be
comes
nice
forward.
if they have it here.
It would be great. Then we don't have to go back there. Sometimes there's more oomph back there, but we'll see. I've gone to several concerts on the lawn. Really enjoyed most of them, especially Creedence Clearwater. Fortunate Son, I think their real name is. They were excellent. On the 10th, Cultural Arts Foundation meeting. Oh. Here we go. That's right. This is, no, don't take offense to this, Fred, but this is called Die, Lawyer, Die. That's the.
Gee. Wow.
Is Larry out there? Oh, I'm sorry. The annual murder mystery dinner and fundraiser, which is Saturday, August the 26th. 5:30 cocktails, 6:30 dinner at Los Serranos. It's always an excellent show. I mean, it's like a theater in the round, and you will really enjoy the evening. 7-11 voted. 7-12 council appointee interviews, and once again, as I mentioned earlier, and Paul, it is much easier here than there. Because 6 months ago, it was like. And then the 13th, Chino Valley Chamber Installation Dinner. On the 17th, the Planning Commission meeting. And, okay. And then I I wanted to echo what Tom had said, because I agree with 90% or 100% of what he said. Because I thought, the idea of putting it on the ballot and saving the city like the $200,000 that it was going to cost for the election was the right way to go. And Measure M, it works. I mean, it went on the ballot, people voted, and got what they wanted. So that to me, that it worked. And just to, I know that you asked me to cover two, but just to make a legal clarification, because I was appointed 6 months ago, and I was appointed at large. So it was to represent all of Chino, and that's what I've been trying to do, is protect all of Chino. And, no, that's it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay. New Councilman Rodriguez, do you have any additional comments?
Let's see. Friday, I just got back from San Diego. We decided to take the Amtrak, so we took it from Fullerton to Old Town San Diego. So that was very nice, my wife and I. And didn't rent a car. We took Uber and Lyft and the trolleys. So it was very, very, very nice. I recommend it.
Okay. Mr. Ballantyne, any report this evening?
Yes, congratulations, Councilmember Rodriguez. I also want to remind everybody that this Thursday is our last concerts in the park, and we have a Journey tribute band. And then on Friday, we also have our last movie in the park out here in front of City Hall, and so I would encourage all folks to come out, and that concludes my reports.
Okay. Fred, any report this evening?
Nothing, Mayor. Just want to also congratulate Mr. Rodriguez. Welcome aboard.
Karen, any report this evening?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and congratulations to our new council member. Mr. Nig stole a little bit of my thunder, which is always never nice when you steal something from the Chief of Police, but that's okay. So I want to just talk briefly. We've had the July 4th holiday fell on a Tuesday night, so it seems like it's been a few weeks ago now. Just give a quick recap about our deployment, which our July 4th deployments from 6 p.m. on the evening of July 4th until midnight that evening. So this year we deployed 51 police officers as compared to 42 last year. This year our calls for service were down, just a few, by 220 as compared to 290 last year. As well as we took a different approach this year, proactively trying to get more illegal fireworks off the street. I had a lot of emails and a lot of messages from people about illegal fireworks being sold on social media sites, websites. So a lot of our police officers conducted some undercover stings, and I'm pleased to report that our police officers seized 1,075 pounds of illegal fireworks prior to the July 4th deployment, and we seized 289 pounds on the night of the July 4th deployment itself. So we had a significant impact in getting out there and getting a lot of illegal fireworks off the street before the deployment ever occurred.
How does that compare to history?
History last year during the deployment, we seized 475 pounds, and I don't have any stats if we seized any, prior to the previous year.
Okay.
We took just trying to take a different innovative approach, Mayor, to trying to get some of those illegal fireworks off the street beforehand. And with some of the violators, they have gotten a little bit more wise about lighting the fireworks and not leaving them out in areas on the night of the deployment, putting them in areas where they're concealed from us. So even if we do catch them in the act of lighting fireworks, perhaps we're not taking all their stash because they're located in different spots. So in that, as Mr. Nigg mentioned earlier, because I'd spoken with them, we issued 64 $1,000 fine citations as compared to 78 last year. 40 of those offenders were actually Chino residents and 24 were not. And we actually had our first repeat offender that I'm aware of this year for a fireworks violation. So that being said, it's certainly a tale of two cities on the evening of July 4th deployment. Either you like fireworks or you don't like them. And of course, I'm objective and I'm going to be working with the Community Services Department to perhaps come up with some innovative ways or a different strategy. My staff and I are presently working with the city attorney to look at different methods for enforcement next year. As well as one other comment I'd like to make that did impact our enforcement that evening is we had a very significant traffic collision at Chino Avenue on Highway 71, which immediately took a deployment of several of our personnel over to that traffic collision for several hours. So it's just a busy evening for us. It's one of our busiest evenings of the year. So I do know that taking some of those officers off to investigate that collision did impact our ability to write some tickets. And just in closing, if you don't have any questions about fireworks statistics, I want to thank all of you for attending Cadet Minna's funeral services. It was profoundly impactful to the Minna family to have so many people there, and that includes the city manager and some of my department directors and staff from the city of Chino. I saw Mr. and Mrs. Minna today. Sergeant Minna was back into the department for the first time since the passing of his son. As you know, this has been a very, very difficult time for them. They have a long road ahead of them, but they greatly, greatly appreciate not just the support of their police department family, but of this community. Brandon's mom is a teacher in the Chino Valley Unified School District, so she's gotten some great support there. So thank you to everyone, not just in this room tonight, but in this community that is supporting them and is continuing to support them. Do you have any questions that I can answer?
Yes.
Go ahead.
When I forgot to mention that I did attend the service and the
Yes, sir. I
reception
saw you there. Yes.
of Brandon Minna. And as was stated earlier, it is a tragedy, unbelievable tragedy. I do have a question. I can't remember if it was the former mayor or one of the presenters tonight said that the police department can't get into, and correct me if I'm wrong about which one it is, but I thought they said the D.R. Horton development at Central and Francis.
And they were talking about the fire department couldn't get in there, and that
I thought
they
he
would
said
have
police
to-
department.
No, I said fire.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Karen,
yes,
no
ma'am.
questions. I just want to make some general comments, and that is, this year, I think in particular, the illegal fireworks were terrible. I mean, they started way back in June, and of course, we live close to the north edge and Ontario, so the county area, our neighboring city, it was horrendous. And I don't know what the explosions were, but they were not the normal illegal explosions. They were big. They sounded like bombs. Oh my God. And the aerial fireworks, it was incredible. Yeah. And just blatant. In fact, they're still going on. The other night I was out feeding the horses and there were firecrackers coming from somewhere in some aerials. So I don't know whether our fine is not enough or what, but it just seems like there is an attitude out there that there's no respect for the law, that they're going to do whatever they feel like doing regardless. It's frightening. It's really frightening. I mean, it's just a blatant disregard for the law.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Earl.
I think what we tend to forget is these people are getting really sophisticated. I know that they have walkie-talkies and lookouts and,
Yeah.
to see our people coming. So it's getting harder and harder to enforce it. So we have to devise a way to break that. And
Well, I
I don't
don't
know if it could be our drones or what, but
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, people are allowed to use cell phone pictures as evidence in certain circumstances. Now, there's drones. I don't understand why that kind of evidence can't be used for illegal fireworks. I know now, from what I understand, your officers are limited to writing tickets for people, or to people, when they actually see them set off a firework. Well, with all of the modern technology and alerting people and using backyards and stuff, how are you going to actually witness them setting off a firework unless they're just oblivious or have been drinking too much? But it just seems like there has to be better methodology to catch these people.
I believe that both of you are correct, and we have traditionally relied on all of our deployments on the eyewitness observation of the police officer seeing that person in possession of that firework. Councilmember Elrod, I'm working with the city staff to properly vet a project proposal for drones. You'll see that here in the future, so we would have to get permission from you to move forward with that project, but hopefully that is forthcoming, so perhaps we can use that technology in future deployments. And I am presently, I do agree with you, Mayor, working with Dr. Reich, and like I said before, my staff and I are conferring with the city attorney about perhaps using attestation in the future in order to help us with the enforcement if there's other people that witness these violations and moving forward with those violations in the future. A lot of information for us to study and obviously review, and if we can do those things, perhaps we can build a successful campaign in enforcement and hopefully deterrence for the 2018 deployment.
Okay, thank you very much, Carolyn.
what about calling in the sheriff's helicopter? No.
Well, yeah,
Well,
it's,
no,
I understand.
But they have that
It's-
heat. They have that heat thing.
Yes, it's
And-
correct. It's a busy night for them as well with fireworks. And generally speaking, even if we were to use the sheriff's helicopter, a lot of times that is a very, very precious resource, sir. And often it will get called away to a higher priority call over a firework, a missing child, perhaps a shooting, a homicide. That resource is shared throughout the county, and I assure you, every evening it is very busy.
Would it be easier if we had our own helicopter?
Tried that before.
I don't know if I can answer that in front of the city manager, so, but yes, yes, it would be.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much.
Okay, who do we have this evening representing the fire department? Because I'm sure, come up, sir, I'm sure there's a report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Kyle Collins, Deputy Fire Chief. I actually am the Fire Marshal at this point in time as well. I'd like to tag on to a Chief Comstock. Myself and two of our inspectors rode out. They graciously let us ride out with I rode out with Sergeant Derek Bishop and some of the other officers to show support for what's going on out there. We also had one inspector ride out with the sheriff office up in Chino Hills, and we had a deputy fire marshal who was stationed at the training center, which is where the collection and tagging of illegal fireworks took place by PD, so we were there in support of that as well. As Chief Comstock mentioned, the majority of the fireworks are confiscated prior to 4th of July with good policing, about 1,100 pounds worth. Also, I want to report that we support what happens out at the Yermo crossing out on I-40, I believe it is. So 3 weekends in a row, we have our inspectors tag in with county inspectors, and they actually search vehicles based on suspicious looking activity. And I want to say they confiscated several tons coming into the state, which I imagine is the tip of the iceberg. And some of the deceptive practices happening out there in Nevada is people were showing a certificate that they purchased showing it was okay to bring that stuff into the state. So they actually have been conned to think that that was legal. So that's the kind of things that's going on. Anecdotally, I wanted to I know one of the gentlemen here tonight wondered why there weren't more tickets written. I happen to be in a black and white with Sheriff Bishop, and as soon as you round the corner, it shuts off. I think the majority of the tickets were written by the plainclothes, not officers, but the vehicles, nondescript vehicles. They were able to get in there and get eyewitness accounts of what happened, see what happened. We managed to write one ticket. We happened to catch one guy holding one in his hand and firing it into the sky. So it is very difficult. It's going off all around you the whole time, and it's very difficult to catch folks. It just is, and they seem to know that. And I think also they do have people that are watching. So, there were 6 small fires in the Chino area. It was things like small grass fire. We had a small, small fires like in a rubbish bin that we attribute to fireworks, but we can't necessarily 100% point to that. But it's very likely that was the cause. And of course, our paramedics responded to 2 injuries, a hand injury and a burn injury. I'm sorry, we responded to a fainting injury. Somebody got struck by a firework and fainted. And then also Chino Valley Medical Center reported they had 2 walk-ins, a hand injury and a burn injury. So that concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for the
Yes.
report.
In the same vein, if we banned fireworks in Chino, would that stop the or help with the illegal fireworks, or would that
Obviously,
stop
it
it?
would just be my opinion, but I would agree that it seems that since they're safe and sane is legal, it gives cover for those that they feel, because I compare that to Chino Hills, where we didn't have a single ticket written and very little activity. So anecdotally, I would say that would seem to say that, but that's an opinion.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Anecdotally, it would seem, based on Chino Hills' lack of activity and the strong enforcement message there that, 1,000 times no and everything that you do here, it seems to me that the safe and sane gives cover here, potentially, to folks actually coming in and using illegal fireworks. And that, again, since you had quite a few people coming in from out of the area, that would sort of speak to that, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Maybe you could bring some information back to us next month, and that is, I'm really curious. Ontario also advertises the 1,000 times no, as does Montclair, and they don't allow safe and sane, and it's a war zone in those 2 communities.
Sure.
I wonder what kind of enforcement activity they have there for tickets, fires, and that sort of stuff. I'd be curious to know.
I'm not sure about that. I did hear at a recent meeting, and I'm not sure it's actually taken place. I think it was something suggested at a neighboring fire department, where they actually are trying to get an ordinance where if you got caught a second time, as was mentioned by Chief Comstock, that ticket is $10,000.
Wow.
And that sends a message.
It'd be interesting to find out what the statistics are for the surrounding communities.
Sure. I will
Okay.
get back to you on that.
Thank you very much. Okay, those are all our reports. We will now recess to close session. Fred, would you like to read the items that we're going into discussion with?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council and audience. The city council will now recess into closed session to discuss the 2 items on the closed session agenda, beginning with item A, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. The council will discuss the matter of Yari Brothers LLC versus Imperial Rubber Products et al., including the city of Chino. And item number B, conference with legal counsel, 1 item of anticipated litigation under the heading of initiation of litigation. That concludes the announcement of the closed session items, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we will recess to close session and make an announcement when we come out. For those who are not going to wait, we will be adjourning the meeting after closed session to our regular meeting on August 1st at 7 o'clock with closed session at 6 that evening if necessary. Okay. Hopefully